The small café on the edge of Faisalabad's old market was Daniel's sanctuary. Every Saturday afternoon, after dropping his 8-year-old son, Ayan, at his grandmother's for the weekend, he came here. No phone, no rush, just a chipped porcelain cup of strong chai, steam curling like forgotten prayers, and the low hum of ceiling fans battling the Punjab heat. Today the place was nearly empty. A couple argued softly in the corner, an old radio crackled with a ghazal. Daniel sat at his usual table by the window, watching dust motes dance in the slanted light. His wife, Sarah, had been gone 4 years now. Cancer took her quickly, leaving him to raise Ayan alone. The grief had dulled to a quiet ache, like an old injury that only hurt when the weather changed. He sipped slowly, letting the cardamom and ginger settle on his tongue. For a few minutes, life felt almost peaceful. Then the door creaked open. An elderly woman stepped in, small, stooped, dressed in a faded green shower kameez and a dupatta that had once been white. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped a worn cloth bag. She scanned the room with cloudy eyes, then fixed on Daniel. Without hesitation, she shuffled toward his table. He straightened instinctively, offering a polite nod. People in this city still respected elders. You didn't ignore someone who looked like they carried decades on their shoulders. She stopped beside his chair, close enough that he caught the faint scent of rose attar and mothballs. "May I sit?" she asked in a voice like dry leaves. "Of course, Ammi," he replied, pushing the chair out with his foot. She lowered herself carefully, bag on her lap. For a long moment she said nothing, just stared at the table as if gathering courage. Daniel waited. He knew what loneliness looked like, he wore it every day. Finally she leaned forward, voice barely above a whisper. "Your son. Ayan, he looks just like my grandson." Daniel froze. He hadn't mentioned Ayan. He hadn't even pulled out his phone today. "How do you?" She raised a trembling hand. "I saw you two last week at the park. He was flying that red kite. Laughing so hard he fell down. I sat on the bench and watched. I couldn't stop watching." Daniel's throat tightened. He remembered that day. Ayan's kite had tangled in a tree. He'd spent 20 minutes untangling it while the boy cheered him on. The woman continued, eyes glistening. "My grandson died 2 years ago. Same age. Same laugh. Hit by a motorcycle on the road near Guntagar. Driver didn't stop." The words landed like stones in still water. Daniel felt the air leave his lungs. "I'm sorry," he managed. "I can't imagine." She shook her head. "You don't have to imagine. You live it every day. I see it in your eyes. The way you hold him a little too tight when you say goodbye." Daniel looked down at his tea. It had gone cold. She reached across the table, placing her thin hand over his. Her skin was cool, papery. "I don't want anything from you," she whispered. "I just needed to tell someone, you're doing it right. You're raising him with love. That's more than most get." He blinked hard. No one had ever said that to him, not his in-laws, not his friends, not even himself in the mirror on bad mornings. She squeezed his hand once, then let go. Then she said the 6 words that cracked something open inside him. "You are the father he needs." Simple. Quiet. Devastating. Daniel felt tears burn behind his eyes, tears he hadn't allowed since the funeral. Because in that moment he realized he'd been carrying guilt like a second skin, guilt that he wasn't enough, that Ayan deserved a mother, a bigger house, a father who didn't sometimes cry in the shower after bedtime stories. But this stranger, this woman carrying her own unbearable loss, had seen him. Truly seen him. She stood slowly, bag clutched to her chest. "I won't bother you again," she said. "But thank you, for letting an old woman pretend, just for a minute, that she still has someone to watch grow up." Daniel rose too. "Wait. Please. What's your name? Fatima, she replied softly. Fatima Begum. Fatima Begum, he repeated. Would you like to meet him sometime? Ayan. He's good with kites. And he makes terrible jokes. Her lips trembled into the smallest smile. Maybe one day. If God wills. She turned toward the door. Daniel watched her go, each step measured, as if the weight of memory slowed her down. He sat back down, hands shaking. The tea was still cold, but something inside him had warmed, cracked open, letting light in where only shadows had lived for years. The next Saturday, Daniel brought Ayan to the café. They waited. She didn't come. But on the table where she'd sat, someone had left a small paper kite, red, just like Ayan's, with a single line written in shaky Urdu script. Keep flying high, beta. Daniel folded it carefully and tucked it into his wallet. From that day on, whenever Ayan asked why Daddy sometimes stared out the window with wet eyes, Daniel would smile and say, because someone reminded me I'm doing okay. And in the quiet moments, when the house felt too still and the nights too long, Daniel would whisper those 6 words to himself like a prayer. You are the father he needs. It wasn't a miracle. It wasn't money or a sudden windfall or a dramatic reunion. It was just recognition, from one wounded heart to another, that the ordinary, exhausting, beautiful work of loving a child was enough. Sometimes that's all it takes to change a life forever.